Peace and plenty, peace and power, y'all. You are here with the Stand Down webinar. Veterans for Peace is calling for active duty members to consider their reasons for enlisting. You joined, like I joined, like we all joined, to defend what you believe to be the American dream. If you are defending your country, you cannot possibly be raising your arms in this country. You know already you shouldn't be raising them in other countries. And I don't want to preach, but that is the reason that we started this show. We started this show to call for our active duty sisters and brothers to stand down, to question your service, to save your moral character. Today we have a very special show. We have Natasha and myself hosting. Our other two hosts are not with us this week because shit is real. We want them to come back to us. We pray for them. Our thoughts are with them. They are safe. They are good. We want them to come back to us when they are ready, when times are right. Today we have Phoenix Johnson as our one guest. We're going to have an in-depth conversation about the intersections of where we are right now. And so I'm highly emotional, as you can tell, because I get like that. And I don't want to ramble on, but we're going to have some current events. We're going to talk about Karenisms, and we're going to talk about the culture of gun ownership in America. And then our guests will already be with us, and then we'll properly introduce our guests and talk about why this Trump-Pence regime must go, and this era of neo-fascism, and how that looks in the world, and how that's playing out. So, with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, people in the world, welcome to the Veterans for Peace Stand Down live webinar. Thank you, Phoenix, for joining us. It's good to see you.
It's great to see you.
Thank you, Natasha, for being with us today. It's good to see you. We have the live chat going. You can leave your comments. You can ask us questions. Hopefully we have one comment already from Joseph Hannock saying, stay safe. We're all going to stay safe. Wear our masks. Be respectful. Be kind to our brothers and sisters. We wear masks. Why do we wear masks? Let's do this as the segue, right? Why do we wear masks in public? The masks help us do what? Do they keep us safe from the virus, or are they keeping our brothers and our family safe? You know what I'm saying? Our extended family. It's a sign of consideration. It's showing that you care. And so I've seen some Karen. I saw a Karen a couple days ago. I'll just get it started with the woman who's in the store pulling masks off pulling masks crazy off the shelf, saying, I've been waiting all my life to do this. I've been waiting all my life to do this. You know, you didn't see this one? I see you tilting your head. You didn't see this? There's so many.
Yeah, there's so many to keep track of. I've met a couple of Karens this week. So they're out in droves. That's for sure.
So this woman pulls off the whole rack of masks, which are in plastic bags. Some aren't in plastic bags, which is kind of odd. Maybe they had been tried on. It shouldn't be in the store. I guess you can wash it. But she goes on to say, I can do this with my $40,000 watch. And I've been waiting all my life to do this. Those were a couple of the quotes that I gleaned from that. Yeah, like what have you been? What kind of life have you been living that all your life you've been wanting to pull stuff off of a shelf? Because she couldn't have wanted to pull masks off of a shelf in particular, right? It's just stuff. She's been wanting to create havoc.
I mean, I would argue to say that she specifically didn't want to just pull something off of the shelf, but she wanted to do something that would affect somebody else's life.
Well, did she think about it? Because whose life is she affecting? She's the storekeep, the people who work in the store, right, have to pick it up. Other than that.
And I mean, just to clarify, these were masks, right?
These were like, N95s being sold in Target. And she got, the police caught up with her later. And she, in her home, and she, her camera goes to the Range Rover as they're finally putting her under arrest. So you see she has a really nice garage, a 2-car garage. And she claims, y'all are doing this to me because I'm Jewish. You're doing this to me because I'm Jewish. So then she claims victim. And it's just this, I see it everywhere. Every Karenism does the same things. They go through these same levels of emotional, mental breakdown on public.
Right. I specifically hear around white women, right? So white women, and I think we've seen this also in like the the queer movement as well. It's just like, and we had the same issue with like Pete Buttigieg. It's just like, well, I'm going to do all these things that are problematic, but also like that virtue signaling of like, well, I'm a queer man. Well, that doesn't absolve you of any of your racism or white supremacy. It doesn't absolve you of like the part that you play here in the United States of America, and you're not just your economic privilege, not just your skin privilege, but your colonial privilege, right? And like, let's talk about the curiarchy. It's just like your complicity in upholding white male patriarchy, like, so that, using one marginalized identity to kind of excuse abhorrent behavior is, I think we've definitely seen an uptick in that recently.
Do you think that they see themselves, Natasha, Phoenix? Do you think that they can look rationally at themselves afterwards? Do their cohort, or is that not our place to judge? Because it keeps happening.
If you're really going to ask me, like, I'm this person who's deeply, like, when I was especially taking, college, right? So psychology and reading about other like social experiments and whatnot and taking statistics, it's just like, and then pairing that with my public health and like my medical sciences education is like, someone like me though, what I really want to do is like, I want to see happen is like this mass like testing for like white supremacy against sociopathy. Honestly, because I don't think that, there's that lack of empathy and that disregard for human life. And we see it's great to use, examples from online, but there was a white male speaking to another white male that said, he was like, there's no rationalizing with some of these people out here. They think that they are literally superior even to other white men based on their closer proximity to like this violent white supremacist culture.
There's the Florida man. There's always a Florida man to fit that description. And so there's a guy in Florida a couple of days ago wearing his shirt said something about 1776, running the world since 1776, and he's screaming that he feels threatened at an elder black woman. An elder, an elder African, an elder stolen African. He's screaming, I feel threatened. Back up, threaten, say it again towards the person. You see the camera backing up.
Yeah, it's definitely weaponized like fear, like sitting in some of these circles that I facilitate or classrooms or what have you, or just private consultations, is that like, it's honestly like a lot of focus on this like victim mentality of violent white people, right? And being able to like, we saw it, we've seen multiple accounts of this throughout history, right? A white woman, blowing this whistle on somebody. And do I still have you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. I just saw Miles was was frozen. So and I think that's used as a front to, it's absolutely used as a front to commit some type of violence. And, I'd love to tell you about my experience this week if y'all want to hear about it.
Yeah, I think, I know Miles was saying that he had weather passing through his area. So hopefully we'll get him back live, but I think about, just really quickly on the Karen ism. I think, it's really important to understand, I talk about this a lot. For the weeks that we've led up to this, I've talked about experiences that I've had on active duty with white supremacy, right? And how it is absolutely a team sport. And if white supremacy is a team sport, someone's playing to win, right? And so I look at the Karenism no differently than I look at the extremists who are, out here, whether they wear, however the domestic terrorism plays itself out, whether you're a Boogaloo or Chicago Police Department, right, in the way that they police and militarize our communities here or in any other city. I think it was in Portland or some West Coast city where a police officer threw up the white power symbol in uniform at a protest on video. This is no longer an assumption. We're realizing that there's a circle of privilege that's happening, and it plays itself out in other ways. The Karenism plays into that. And so when I talk about white supremacy is a team sport, just from the active duty perspective, because I know as veterans, we tie the military experience into this. It's where those who saw wrongs happening to our Black and brown and indigenous peoples, and they said nothing, or they looked the other way, or they played along and gave you the bad report when you didn't earn it. It's again, if we all play into these things. And then you talked about, right before we lost you, Miles, you were talking about the gentleman who said running the world since 1776, and how, like, that's the thing. I think about the team sport, like it's Karenism, and then there's this guy who clearly looked like he was packing. If you look at the bulge on his shirt, and he said the things that you say right before you stand your ground.
Yeah, in Florida.
And it's definitely really that team sport, for sure. So I said before we got on that I was going to share my experience this week, and it's not as aggressive, but I think it's like a great example. So I have a plot at a community garden, and so I'm growing some of my own food and teaching my daughter how to garden, which is really cute. Great, food sovereignty and everything. That's fantastic. So I just got done with a meeting, and I was dressed nice, and I was like, I'll just pop by the garden anyways, and I'll water it because it's been pretty warm. So then there's this beautiful lavender. I'm taking a picture. And then I'm going to head out. Well, around this corner comes one of these Karens who saw me and was like, oh, like I was like this giant rat, right? Like, oh my gosh. And so then I was like, I'm just going to ignore her. And she says something to me, and she goes, you need to put a mask on. And I'm looking out into this beautiful open atmosphere outside, right? We're like 15 feet away or at the minimum. And so, I just said, okay, thanks, because I don't want to do this today. I really don't. I just want to take pictures of lavender, water my, my melon and my peas and kale and all that. And so she continues to beef with me over it. And I just look at her and I'm just smiling because I just really don't want to do this today. So I was just like, okay, a lot of people are not, they don't see us as people. We're, I come from in Alaska, our signs just a few decades ago said no dogs, no Indians allowed. So they look at us like dogs, right? So I'm like, let's have a human conversation. So I said, what's your name? And she was like, I'm not doing this. You need to put your mask on and all these things. And so I was just like, ma'am, we're outside. And I don't want to go over the state mandates, and I don't want to teach her what science is. You know what I mean? I don't want to go health professional on her. And then she goes, "Okay, Karen," and then sprays me with the hose.
Oh, sprays you with a hose?
Sprays me with the garden hose.
See, I didn't get that. We didn't talk about that before. Okay. I wanted to ask you, was she wearing a mask?
Yeah, she was.
Do you get seen as white by people? Do people see you as white?
Oh,
you were just saying that you don't, but do you think she did? No.
No way.
She did reverse. Wow.
So she, and I think, and some people were like, well, you know, she's older. She's like, what, in her 50s or whatever. And she projection, and she doesn't really understand that or whatever. But yeah, I have not been like, I'm definitely like very light, especially when I don't see the sun. But I've never been mistaken as white. I've actually been mistaken for several other races besides white, though.
Yeah, I could see people mistaking you as any number of.
Let's not go there.
We're all human, right? Like, what race do they mistake you as? You know, I get asked.
Well, that was a concern, like, for what's going on right now is there's a lot of anti-Asian racism. So incidentally, I started to experience that. Like some person was like actually like screamed at me like on the sidewalk, like, "You Chinese bee." And I was like,
you are a living example. We have on our show, you have like the way our planet is, you know what I'm saying? Like, talk about multiculturalism and the fear of it from the right. Can't even call it the far right. Like half of society, half of American, you know, because where the uproar should be everywhere at this point. When you have all these examples, you as one person have multiple examples of how this movement is so vital right now.
So I guess you're speaking to like my family makeup and my identities and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm already going there, and I don't want to go there, but it's just hard. It's kind of hard not to. Like, you just gave me two examples of you, of the world needing to wake up and the world needing to grow up, and the world leaders like. Why do we need leaders who don't know how to govern people? You know, why do we have people who don't know how, right?
Yeah, precisely. And I think, you know, coming on here is just also, you know, something that I want to be transparent about. And it's not to be negative or combative or whatever, but we even look at, like, right now we're looking at Veterans for Peace as far as like, why do we have specific leadership that we do have? And why is it that we keep recreating systems like we're doing something progressive when we're just half a deviation away from the same nonsense? And so like
you're struggling through, yeah.
Like we have this opportunity to have the show, but you know, I'm going to say publicly I quietly resigned as a chapter lead here in Seattle to talk about how we need to make substantial systemic change, that we can't continue to paint our house a different color or put another lawn sign up or just throw somebody in a board chair, but we actually need to change our inner workings and our power dynamics here.
Within the movement, we are suffering on many levels, many people, many organizations, right? Our organization is suffering through many things, right? And at the same time, pushing in new directions. And our country is suffering through many things and at the same time, pushing in new directions, you know?
Yeah, that's a great point that y'all mentioned. You know, I talk about this a lot. And I feel like, man, there's just 2 points that I want to make here. You know, we should believe people when they're telling their stories. And I'm going to say it's in this space as veterans, but, you know, I tell you, we talk about this a lot, Miles, that what keeps me up at night are the airmen who are in the boots, who are experiencing what I was able to retire from, right? And it is critically important that we talk about this in a way that makes sense, because there's a duality here. We're not just looking at this as, you know, 2020. And I really want to pause and say,
thank you.
Not get it twisted. We are not anti-military personnel. This is not about or against our former the people who are in the military for a myriad of reasons, most of it because of economic impacts and draft. You know, we are against the system that has consistently and has never wavered from white supremacy, dominance, bias, discrimination, and the violence of what that is, and seeing people lose their mental health, seeing people lose their capacity to earn a pension, seeing people lose their capacity to have VA benefits and health care for the rest of their lives despite their service to this nation is something that I think that we should start believing people and start undoing the what would you call it? The denial of all of that. You know,
the damage is in the denial. I'm not going to cut you off.
Yeah, and I'll put it, you know, here with an example. You know, when I filed a congressional complaint about the racism that I saw in the Air Force Special Operations Command, they wasted no time to go on a full-on destroy her career campaign, right? And I mean, they wasted no time. And it was categorical. It was even the good chiefs. It was the captain who knew that this wasn't right, but they all played a part in it because this is the way we all got to go. And that's why I talk about why the team sport of white supremacy, particularly in the military, not everyone's racist. Not everyone's a bad guy. But when there's an opportunity for you to do the right thing, I think like this moment and where we are in history calls on those that are still in decision-making roles to do the right thing, right? A lot of the branches are creating racism task forces. Go and look at your IG complaints and the congressionals that you've done for years and start there. I mean, it's really already there, right?
Right.
Like, and
you don't have to create a panel or a new board. No.
They don't. And there are a lot of Karens and a lot of Kens on active duty who, with the swipe of their pen, can take someone's livelihood away. And if we're not talking about that in a real way, I think that we won't, you know, do some service here.
These people who take away with the swipe of a pen, take away someone's livelihood by removing them from the military. In the civilian world, they pull out their gun, and as a Zimmerman or as you know, countless number of other killer cops, they take the life of a George Floyd or a Michael Brown, you know, and they do it with little to no impunity, like you said earlier, you know, and they own a lot of guns in this country, and they are a lot of the judges in this country, and they are a lot of the people who are making the decisions on who gets to live in houses and who doesn't, you know, after rent moratoriums expire. They're the ones choosing whether to prosecute the cops or not, right? It's all intersectional. I was just going off on a rant. I thank you for bringing us back. We have a lot of really good comments in the section, in the live comments, so we can get to some comments at the end as well.
There was an example that you talked about in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Miles, do you want to bring that up at this point?
Yeah. So for me, the Karenisms and the Kenisms, the violence feeds into their reliance on their guns, and then our backlash, right? Or not ours, but a Black nationalist backlash is NFAC, right? Not fucking around. Is it coalition? I forget the C. But those brothers and sisters marched on Stone Mountain, the stronghold of the Klan, on July 4th. And there's always a KKK parade, and neither the KKK nor the police showed up. And it was like a battalion, like you said, you know, it was a company, at least. It was many platoons worth of heavily armed brothers and sisters, and making public statements about our ability as Black Americans, as Indigenous people, to defend ourselves. The first law of nature is to defend ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Is to defend oneself. My son Tafari is here. My boy Golden just woke up from a nap. So I'm a full-time father.
Can we have our chocolate bars?
Yes, you can.
That's the future right there.
I try to keep them off camera, you know what I'm saying, because of these people that we're talking about. But then you have these people clashing, right, and saying we will fight back, and well, we will subversively saying, well, we can't wait to kill you, like the cops who got found in North Carolina on tape, saying we can't wait to start this race war. So what you have is a country which is still predominantly Anglo-European white, you know, male and heavily armed against everyone else, you know. And so are you trying to have Civil War number 2? This doesn't make any sense with a president who clearly is choosing dates that have such historical significance for violence against us, a certain people, you know. It's abysmal where we're at. So yeah, I want to talk about neo-fascism, and I want to talk about how the era created situations.
Oh no, looks like we lost Miles again. He has a storm in his area. Phoenix, what do you have to share here until we get Miles back?
Yeah, I would say, you know, I was definitely lured in by the concept of like, are we headed towards like another civil war? And hearing that, you know, specifically the terms, hey, Miles, I was just kind of adding some perspective here to what you were saying. You know, my thoughts anyways, is I was just saying that I was kind of lured in by this idea, you know, when we talked earlier about, are we in for another civil war? Like, using the terms race war and stuff like that. And, you know, my colonial brain was like, yes, like that looks like what is happening. Like we're going to have another war, but and then I rooted back down in like who I am and my history and my people. And it's like, no, we're not having another war. Like we've been consistently at war. Like that guy's shirt said, like, I would change it. Been fucking up the world since 1776. Pardon my French. But so that's what we're doing. Cause you know, when that's happening on July 4th, right? That's amazing. You know, go a few states over to the West and we have indigenous people who are lining up and locking arms, who are unarmed and saying like, no, we are so tired of you like romanticizing your genocide and colonization and murder of us with this giant like mountain of, you know, the grandfathers that you've carved your colonizer faces in, right? And there, I saw the videos. They're like you know, the Native American tribes from that region, whoever also is there, they were getting beaten. Like they were getting pepper sprayed again. Like they were being like maliciously attacked, right? For just standing our own ground to say, no, like we don't want to deal with this any further. So it's like, yes and no. We're just it's just this continued violent occupation of white supremacy. But now it's like we've had lulls of supposed peace, but now we're seeing them crawl back out and feeling completely enabled by, you know, political leadership. Like we're talking about like right now, like they are, you know, they're emboldened, right, to attack us. Like I'm here in Seattle, and there's been an uptick of within my network of people saying that they're getting harassed by cars. Like this also happened to me when there was another uprising like a few years ago where my daughter and I were just crossing the crosswalk, and this man in this large truck like lurched at us. The same thing happened where we got circled last week for going on a bike ride. Well, then a few nights ago, we had someone in their car, like literally commit murder and like drove high speed into our protesters in the middle of the night, like when it's dark and with intent going around the barricades. And some are like, didn't make it, you know? And the same thing happened yesterday. Somebody took their car and they they drove into the crowd of protesters again. It wasn't even at night. It wasn't even dark. It was middle of the day, 2:00 in the afternoon, and they drove on the sidewalk to do it. So they think that it's open season, and they're using that term because they don't see us as people. They see us as animals. But the fact of the matter is that we're the inherent leaders. Like, we are the leadership. Like, we are the compassionate people. Like, we are the strength, and we're the key to the future. Like, your children, my children, like, that's the future. That's what we need to be talking about, not making aesthetic changes and slogans and committees and anything like that. Anyway, so I'm getting on a soapbox, but
no, it happens. Like, you let off so many examples again in your personal life. It's hard not to. How do you not get on that soapbox? Right now, people are mad. They feel like, look, he's on a soapbox. She's on a soapbox. She's on a soapbox. Oh, and I want to be on a soapbox too. That's why can't happen. You know, it's not. We're not on a soapbox. We're in the soapbox. We are the soapbox. We're tired of making the soap. You know what I'm saying, and washing the clothes and carrying the load and still getting seen as dirty after bringing you your clothes. You know, it's not everybody, right? It's not. Are all white people bad?
But I don't want to have to say that. I'm going to say it. I don't.
No, I know. Terry
Crews.
I'm bringing up Terry Crews. Terry Crews on Don with Don Lemon. He said I'm going to be the one to say it. All white people aren't bad. All black people aren't good. I'm going to work with the ones who work with me. You know what I'm saying? And that's true. You know what I'm saying? Like, we talk about the internal conflicts happening within VFP. VFP is a organization started by what are now old white men. You know what I'm saying? There's some of them cool, you know, some of them aren't. I mean, it's the way life is, but that's where this platform is coming from. So, you know, we're working with the ones who are working with us to make the change necessary. And so it doesn't justify any of the wrong, you know, but it does make the conversation very lively. It does make the conversation very lively.
Justify why it's so important to go back to, like, the original points is, like, our lives are under attack, right? Like, somebody in my network was just murdered for standing up for what matters, for Black lives, for police accountability against white supremacy, right? It justifies why it's so important that folks in power are working with us, right? And it's just like, I don't know, yeah, it just, that change is necessary, right? We can't have polite relationships anymore. We need to have meaningful relationships.
So, if I can quickly, that spoke to me, Phoenix, and you're right. To see for the public's reaction, much like when Dr. King was in Selma, or from Selma to Montgomery, it shocked the nation to see peaceful protesters singing hymns be beat over the head for their constitutional rights, right? And so when you see here in the year of 2020, young non-Black people run down, and let's be clear, it happened in Charlottesville too, dare to stand up for liberation of Black lives, which is what brought us to this point, is that we've been seeing this and saying it for generations, that this has been heavy on us. And so those that dare stand with us are now in opposition to the structures and the team sport of white supremacy. And if we don't keep repeating like that part of it, like these young people otherwise live a safe, or may have felt safe to be out. Let's be clear. I have friends who are in Berkeley who talk about their nurses, and they create a white wall in all of the demonstrations because there's white privilege that they understand. And so what this is telling folks, really, for the young woman in Charlottesville and now in Seattle, and then I think yesterday in Bloomington, Indiana, is that when you stand up for Black lives, you are now your privileges are gone. Right. And I think it's important to like talk about like, why is this happening? And it's happening because these young people are daring to stand up to the structures that refuse, that are going out with a fight, that refuse to stand down. And if we look at it, and if we don't depart from that, I think we lose focus of like what we're up against, which is a really ugly underbelly of society that says anyone that dares to stand in opposition of white supremacy will mow you down.
Well, we have a pandemic. We have a global pandemic causing massive layoffs, right? And no income, and an uprising for Black and really Indigenous lives, right? They intersect. I don't want to diminish anyone. I know the fights are both valid, all valid, but you have, what else can people do except rebel, right? So you honestly have a situation where they're creating it. You know, the papers came out about where the money went to, the relief money, and that they've been trying to keep quiet. So much of it went to the inner cabinet's families. Have y'all seen this? Have y'all seen this report from Phoenix? You have another example from your personal life that talks about the epidemic of people losing homes right now. Do you not? Like people don't have ample income to pay their rent. There's moratoriums, and you're going through this personally. Are you not?
Yeah, I'm getting pushed out of my home by white cis hetero double income homeowners that I'm renting from. And it's been a struggle the whole time. And these, like, you know, people think that like the pandemic happened, all of a sudden we have an economic issue. And no, what I think we have for a certain portion of us who have marginalized identities is that we've already had a tumultuous, hostile situation with people who are monopolizing power, right? So, I mean, my relationship with my landlord was already exploitative, right? There were already issues. There was already a point where I brought up discrimination, and their answer was, well, you can leave. And so now, even though we have a moratorium, I've struggled to pay my full rent, but they're getting the majority of the portion. And I think what they're really interested in is, exploiting Black and brown bodies for their gain, right? So they're not getting their full amount of money, and they wanted to, anyways, yeah. So it's a deeply personal issue. I'm definitely really upset about it. And so now they're using the new terrain that they have to further their agenda, which is to remove me because I don't fit their cookie cutter.
Landlords by nature, I mean, that's what they do, right? They take money. They rarely improve the home, and they increase the rent every year.
Look at the word itself, landlord. I mean, how superior is that? Lord.
Every state is different. I don't know Seattle's laws about housing rights. So assume then you're taking this to have, or you're trying to, or you don't have the right to in Washington, Seattle. What is it? What's it like up there in Washington?
I mean, it's definitely like the landlord's advantage here. Like there's a lot of skew towards landlords. It's very, like I said, it's very exploitative. It's just people. There's no rent caps. I mean, there's a lot of push for like tenant rights and rent cancellation and stuff like that. But I mean, just trying to rent a place here, like it's absurd, right? It's like, because we have these, we have like big industry and like these tech companies and whatnot, right? We're like Amazon headquarters. So we have people coming in making like big tech money, and that just seems like more of an excuse to continue to ask for more money and keep rising the rent prices and continuing to push out any marginalized families, right? Like the the neighborhood so first of all, Seattle is, land of the Duwamish, right? So it's been colonized, occupied, and like this whole theory of like housing is so colonial and so extractive, right? Is like you're making somebody, like I have to pay to live on my own land, right? Like I get it, I'm paying, like I have electricity, I have the 4 walls and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is that like this whole situation there's just another layer, right? And so, landlords will ask for you to have like a more than perfect credit score, to have the same job for 1 to 2 years, to put down like enormous like deposits and stuff like that. And so they make it like virtually impossible for anybody besides a super privileged person to actually be housed. And that's why we have an atrocious housing crisis here. Atrocious.
I know Seattle, Oakland's going through something, like San Francisco area. Lots of the cities, like you mentioned, with these populations of very well-paid, young, tend to be white individuals moving into predominantly POC, right, other communities and pushing those people out.
Like here. So I was saying my neighborhood, like I said, my main point was it was, tribal land, obviously, but my specific neighborhood is where like my actual relatives were homeowners and renters, right, in 80s and 90s, and got pushed out. And so me coming back in was kind of like personally satisfying, but to realize that it was only because my predatory landlord like wanted that money, right? They wanted that income. They wanted to continue to build their wealth. And so it was like, it's obvious, right? Because I'm getting charged $360 a month for water and trash. That's 2 months worth of water and water for a family of 4 in a home to themselves, right? But they're also the same people that tell me you can't use the outdoor water. Like I saw me using the hose one time to like rinse off my daughter's boots or something, and they restricted my water use. So now we're in a pandemic and I need to grow some food for food security. And I can't because I can't use the water. But I'm footing their bill and the 2 other tenants in the building twofold.
It's so disgusting. I don't want, but it's disgusting. It disgusts me. It irks me.
Yeah, well, you're frozen. But yes, so I'm just going to continue the conversation until you come back on. It's absolutely disgusting. I think it's really predatory, and looks like Natasha is rejoining us. Hey, Natasha, we were just talking about landlords, the rent crisis, especially with the pandemic and whatnot, and housing instability, and how it's historically been used to marginalize Native people, Black people, and other communities of color, especially immigrant community. So I think we should have a right to live where we want to and live in peace, right? And then not have to continue to be pushed out and be fearing for our lives, our housing, or whatever.
If you have a judge situation, judges overwhelmingly will go with the landlord.
Oh,
Judges I live in a state similar to yours. Alabama's like little to no renters' rights. We had to do a crazy thing to get out of our house last year, and it's I'm reading this article about the evictions during the pandemic, and the judge goes in favor of the landlord, and
I think we lost Miles again. And
it's, of course, you didn't have to. You're the judge, it's sad. It's sad. It's saddening. And then we're such a peaceful people that the warrior spirit is still able to withstand the desire, the weakness. We're stronger than the weakness of wanting to go to war over it, right? Like you said we're not even being violent. I can't recall exactly what you said earlier, but it was in response to the way the killer cops and killer vigilantes lawlessly attack unarmed women and men who don't look like them, and yet we are protesting. It's not a bloody revolution, and we've been defending ourselves in this war for 500 years, right?
And I think going back to your point is like working with those who work with me is like, it's asking people to continue to grow and continue to check themselves and continue to inventory their own privilege, right? Because, Natasha said something about like, you're giving up privileges. That's the point. And so I remember sitting in a class, and I recommend anybody here to go look up Catrice Jackson's work, Catriceology. She has, online learning options. She's written a couple of books or whatever. But there was a conversation that we had where I got to watch her, in one of her workshops for white women. It was a 2-day workshop. And she says, y'all have things. You don't need more things. You're constantly in the business of getting more things. And, judging our audience, right? That's an RV. That's a bigger garage. That's, whatever house. That's your vacation spot. That's another vehicle, whatever else for your kids. And all of that's continually getting more and more and more, right? Well, that needs to stop. Like, that's an illness, right? That's that extractive mentality. And that's you feeding your privilege, your spoiled privilege, right? And that's what whiteness is. And I watch it in the stores. And like, I just facilitated this family activism panel, an intersectional and intergenerational panel, talking about how we need to have conversations with children, because I see that entitled behavior and white dynamics playing out in the grocery store and on the playground. And we don't need to just teach our kids to defend ourselves, just like we don't need to teach our girls to not wear a skirt. We need to start teaching boys and teaching white children their place in the new future here that is the just future.
Now you're talking about solutions. This is beautiful. Thank you for naturally doing it, because that's the way it goes, right? That's where the fear that we're out here fighting, we're protesting in these streets because we have solutions, right? Solutions, right? We're doing to harp on all the bad and just on that for no reason. Yeah. So
I've never been to one protest, demonstration, action, or anything that did not have the list of demands or a specific purpose to be there. Like, nobody goes out in the street to say, I want to scream words. Nobody does that.
No, Karen does that and Ken does that. You don't see this on the mainstream media is the thing about a protest.
Let's talk about value system, right? Like, I want a haircut and I want to protect my freedom of speech to say like whatever insulting racist thing I want to say, versus we don't want to be murdered by the police anymore. We have a right to home ownership. Like, we have a right to reclaim our indigenous land. Like, we have a right for our children to go to school without being like harassed or abused, right? Like, it's a value system. Totally a value system.
Do you think point in time we still have to lay that out for them? Like, in 1776, Frederick Douglass laid that out, right?
Well, I think, right. Yes, and no, because if they need that laid out, I'm like getting excited. If they need it laid out, they don't need to be in a position of power. If they don't understand how our society needs to work, they don't need to be in a position of influence. If we're the people that have that knowledge and that expertise, we don't need to be messing with that, right? Like, they can hit a classroom, they can hit a book club. That's fantastic. But y'all don't need to be the politicians, the executive directors, right? You don't need to be the ones teaching anti-racist classes.
Yeah. So then does the vote, right? How does the takeover look, right? There has to be, this right here is the beginning of a necessary change in our world. Would you say? Like, are you happy that you're alive in this time? How do you feel? I don't want to put words in your mouth. How do you feel to be alive right now, Phoenix?
Miserable.
I know you're miserable.
I have no sense of joy. I have no spark of joy or wonder or just relaxation. And that's an injustice, right? Like, I'm going through the situation with my landlord or experiencing a death in our network, right? And et cetera. And like, people want to look at us white people want to look at us like we're a certain breed that dies young, that our breed has health issues, that we just inherently are genetically predisposed to having problems. No, we don't. We die young and early and have health issues because of the inflicted trauma, right? And so yeah, going back to like the solutions and whatnot is, I'll let you continue saying what you were saying, but.
No, Phoenix, it's you. You are on here. I'm happy to have you on here because you happen to be a member of all of these communities. You happen to be invested in all of these communities.
All my badges, right? Like Two-Spirit, queer, First Peoples, Native American, Native Black, mixed race, family, femme presenting, right? Disabled, veteran, economically disadvantaged, meaning I'm poor as hell, right? Have experienced homelessness, survivor of abuse and sexual assault and all of these things, right? And it's just like, and so people would think that maybe that puts us in I think we get infantilized a lot, right? It's like, instead of looking at us for how strong we are despite that, the fact that I can sit here today and have an informed, well thought out, educated, and come from a place of expertise and still be able to be a leader. Oh my God, I'm a beast. I don't feel like that every day, but I'm not. I'm also not happy, right? And other people are just hanging out, going to the cafe, and they're, in phase 2 or 3, whatever, and they're sitting, they're eating, whatever, having their mimosa, and then there's this whole crowd of marchers. Have you seen that picture?
I've seen that picture. Yes, I've seen pictures like that. Our brother, took pictures of that. And I've seen them from in Ohio as well.
Right.
The disconnect, but it's you're so powerful. I want to say you are by far one of the most powerful people I know, and for this world, you need to be empowered, and people like you need to be empowered. And so thank you for being with us today, for sharing your truths. I didn't want to put any words in your mouth, lead the conversation. I was happy to just ask you questions. Thank you for sharing. These things that you listed, if we defund the police, we can invest that money, right? We can reinvest that money can go to creating a different world, right? Because our military budget.
Yep. Sorry, I just got really excited again. Yeah, absolutely. And I've been wanting to share this specific example as well. So how many times have we heard a story about how somebody employed, and I don't want to say a police because it's not your identity, right? There is no policeman, right? We have a Black man, we have a Native American man, right? But we don't have a policeman. That's not, Blue Lives is not an identity, right? So somebody employed with the police, how many times have they been called for a mental health crisis, or have been called for somebody who is feeling suicidal, right?
So many.
Right. And then let's look at the salary here. It's like, so those people who are making, let's say Seattle, $160,000 a year, right? And that's well over like the median income. And they're killing people who are suicidal. Now, me coming from my former suicide prevention program management job, just give me a good guess. Maybe the audience can guess. Take a second to think about how much do y'all think that I was offered for salary?
If it was in Seattle, so expensive, you'd be lucky if it was 35 for a full-time job, 40,000 for a full-time job.
Do we have any other comments in the feed? Anybody else taking a guess?
Excellent points. It's agreement. The feed is like, there's some really great comments in here that I'd love to, if we get a chance to get back to.
Yeah, let's do that. I'll tell you real quick. 40K.
Yeah.
40K.
Basically a poverty. I know. Fully educated, well-educated social worker gets like pennies to take care of people who need their care, and then we heavily fund the police. We pay nice salaries and pensions, and and buy tanks. It's madness.
Yeah. And I want to say that other thing is like, you know, when we have hearing that, like we have tanks in our streets, right? And we're yelling, whose streets, our streets. Like, I get that. I really do. But there was something that, there was an ad that popped out that some vets wanted to put out there. And they said, our streets are not the battle space. So, yes. I mean, yes, they actually are. They are. These streets have been a battle space. I just want to reiterate that. I'm going to keep saying that. We've been at war for 400 years, right? And also it's that ownership, that entitlement to like our streets, right? Just because you don't feel safe right now and you're seeing it doesn't mean that it didn't exist 5 years ago, didn't exist in the 70s, right? When we're still trying to pick up the work that they were doing in the 70s.
I want to wrap it up. I want to bring Natasha back to wrap it up. I got one point I want to distill. Please have one point to distill, Natasha, as well. And then we're going to close it out with a really relevant song for everybody. Thank you so much, Phoenix, for joining us today. Thank you, Natasha, for helping to guide. Phoenix helped. Thank you, Natasha, so much for guiding us through and bringing us back on topic to talk about sisters in the military and bring this all home for everybody, because all the things we talked about affect our brothers and sisters, whether they're based here or overseas. They have family here. They, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all relevant.
It's never enough time.
Let me just say my piece, and then you two can wrap up, and then we'll go to the music. The fear that is being exemplified by the Karens and the Kens and their resilience on their guns and their pride to kill a person and take a person's life, to kneel on somebody's neck, you know, and to do that, their reliance on violence to solve problems shows a severe mental health problem. We already know we have a mental health epidemic in this country that needs to be addressed. And so it seems like the news would be talking about that. So I thank you so much for being on here today to address some of what.
He was going in, wasn't he?
I'm saying the internet can't handle it sometimes when we really get on our vibe. It's just like internet's like, oh gosh.
Right. Miles, do we have your audio? Oh, I thought I heard him come through.
He'll come back, but maybe you can close this out.
Back. If the camera comes back, all sorts. That's why all sorts of young people, millennials, we love you, millennials, black, white, every color, when all one people, millennials, we love you. Thank you for getting out here and teaching people how to protest. And yeah, we're gonna win. You know what I'm saying? We already done won. So thank you, Phoenix, for being on, and feel better, because you manifest, you know, I don't want to preach to you, but you manifest a lot of power.
So much power, it paused the internet.
Every time. So yeah, you know, just to, you know, share some final like wrap up. There you go. I hear him, so I feel like I want to give space if we have his audio back. We are about a minute away from
give your final points. If you can hear it, give your final points, and let's, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I love you. 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 That's all it is. Love, love, love.
We love you, Mal.
Yeah, fuck the war. Fuck war. Fuck war. Fuck the war.
That's right. Listen, again, for those that are new to this, to understand where we, you know, what we're talking about, it's around the military as a over budgeted system and industry, that if we had the billions of dollars, the trillions of dollars available to that military industrial complex, our communities can have the mental health. We We can give stipends to those who are facing or who are housing insecure, those that need testing sites on the south side of Chicago, for those in DC that are saying we need more because the gentrification is running over our people who have been here for generations. And the same here in Chicago and the same in Seattle. And it's no different when you're talking about New Orleans and the South. And so, I really feel that this is not about the people that are in the military. This is about the structures of where we're talking about rededicating resources and power to the people versus war, right? And so if we rededicate these funds to home, we would have all of the things that we need to feel a good quality of life. So I'm glad to be here. It was wonderful to just sit in the background and listen to you two dialogue and chop it up. So thank you for coming back again, Phoenix. I know that you are very busy, so to have you back was just really a treat to just sit back and listen to you. Peace to you, sister. And please give us some closing remarks before we take it to the song.
I really just want to end in gratitude, really, for the both of you. I think you are exactly what keeps me around the anti-war movement. Like, you keep my head in the game. Like, you help me feel that thing that I have to affirm myself of every day, right? Is that this is my space, that I'm entitled to this space. Like, I wore the uniform, and that if the demilitarization movement is going to have any sustainability, right, it's to understand the first people who've been at this for a while, right? And y'all get that. And so y'all are just in your own right powerful human beings, and you do amazing work. And every time I talk to you, I get something out of it. I grow more, and I grow respect for you. So thanks for that. And to anybody listening, I really encourage you to just really deeply let this sink in and figure out where your space is here in building this new future. And especially to those you still serving. I didn't have that opportunity to have that conversation about, where I was and what I was involved in. And there's people here who are willing to have that conversation with you, and there's support out there. And even if you finish your term, we're still here for you. So Gonashish, which means gratitude in my language, and be well.
Thank you so much, Phoenix. Thank you for that. GI Rights Hotline, stand down at veteransforpeace.org. I do this, like you said, because your people, which are my people, have been run out of our land by the U.S. military. And one of the best groups that I know, the reason that I do hip hop today is Public Enemy, in music that is all about the people. State of this country since I was, a youngin'. And so Phoenix, thank you so much for being with us today, for being back on the show, for talking with us and sharing your truths. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And you want to bring in Public Enemy, State of the Union, shut the fuck up?
Let's hear it.
You know what I'm saying?
Let's hear it.
Let's go, Chuck D, Flavor Flav. Come on. This one is DJ Primo. Let's go. DJ Natasha, where you at? We got Public Enemy, State of the Union, shut the fuck up. Brand new track released a couple weeks ago. Here we go. This is for everybody, wherever you are, overseas, near or far. Power to the people. All power to the people.
away from me. State of the Union, shut the fuck up. Sorry ass motherfucker, stay away from me. State of the Union, shut the fuck up. Sorry ass motherfucker, stay away from me.
Mr. I am the law, and you are not. In fact, I'm God. I got a lot. Mr. These United Race take over, come over. Orange hair, fear the comb over. Here's another scare, keep them hands in the air. Better not breathe, you dare not dare. Don't say nothing, and don't think nothing. Make America great again, the middle just love it. Really wanna talk, walk y'all straight to them ovens. Human beings of color, yeah, we be suffering.
State of the Union, shut the fuck up. Sorry ass motherfucker, stay away from me. State of the Union, shut the fuck up. Sorry ass motherfucker, stay away from me. State of the Union, shut the fuck up. Sorry ass motherfucker, stay away from me. State of the Union, shut the fuck up. Sorry ass motherfucker, stay away from me.
Rock that vote, or vote for hell. Real generals now, not some USFL. Not a fucking game, I did not mention his name. Operation 45, yeah, it's the same thing. Sounds like Berlin burning, same thing. History's a mystery if y'all ain't learning. In this clown show for real estate bozo. Nazi cult 45, Gestapo.
State of the Union, shut the fuck up. Sorry ass motherfucker, stay away from me. State of the Union, shut the fuck up. Sorry ass motherfucker, stay away from me. State of the Union, shut the fuck up. Sorry ass motherfucker, stay away from me. State of the Union, shut the fuck up. Sorry ass motherfucker, stay away from me. State of the Union, shut the fuck up. Sorry ass motherfucker, stay away from me. State of the Union, shut the fuck up. Sorry ass motherfucker, stay away from me.